Welcome to Sports Talk with R and J. I am Steve Risser along here with Justin D'Onofrio. We got another busy show today. I mean, the Lakers just won the NBA championship. We got the baseball playoffs in full swing, and college football's in full swing as well. We got a big top five match, but we got to start in the NFL. We got to start last night with the Tennessee Titans beating the Buffalo Bills 42-16. And last night, the Titans. I mean, Josh Allen didn't play his best game. Threw two big interceptions. Those were two huge interceptions to start the game. Yes, you could. Part of it you could put on Andre Roberts. The other one was definitely on him that got returned to Buffalo's 12-yard line. So Josh Allen struggled last night. He didn't look like a top 5 quarterback. Still definitely a top 10 quarterback. The way he converts on third down, he's still great on third down. But the turnovers, I think, keep him out of the top 5. And if you look at Ryan Tannehill, he played really well last night. Even though the Titans had short fields, they took advantage of it. Tannehill played a really good game. He's been really, really good for the Titans ever since he took over from Mariota in the middle of the season last year. The Titans defensively, they shut down the run. They shut down Devin Singletary. Just a dominant performance for a team that had pretty much didn't practice for 2 weeks. And you look at the Bills, it's not an excuse, but still, they had to kind of prepare for 2 teams. It was kind of a fluid situation this week. So last night, Titans were dominant, and you could say that they're definitely a Super Bowl contender in the AFC.
Yeah, definitely. They kind of set the tone right from that first interception, a minute into it. And you could see, I know they weren't able to practice a lot the last few weeks, but you could see they watched a lot of films on this Bills team, and they, again, had a great scouting report for the guys. They absolutely dominated them. And then, when you talk about Tannehill, his highest QBR of his, NFL career was a 97 last night. So, he was great again. But, when you have Henry in that backfield, it just makes things so much easier. And they were the first team since the 2007. Since 2007, when it was New England. So they're the first team to score all 6 touchdowns, score 6 touchdowns on all 6 of the red zone trips, not allow a sack and not allow, a turnover. It was just a complete dominant effort for them, and they definitely look good, and they didn't really miss a beat. While the Bills too, you could kind of see the Bills just a lot of just uncharacteristic mistakes, a lot of penalties, a couple, offsides, false starts. You could see it was a team that, looked like they had a couple weeks off here.
Oh yeah, they definitely were rusty last night. I mean, Josh Allen, but the rest of the team was. They couldn't run the ball. They had trouble protecting them defensively. Yeah, defensively they weren't terrible, but still they struggled there too. Just all around. I mean, a lot of people were considering the Bills, with their 4-0 start, maybe the second best team in the AFC. They definitely proved this week that they're not there, and them and the Patriots are pretty close. You could even argue the Patriots might be better than them.
Yeah, I know they play a couple of weeks. Will be interested. They last night, you did see a lot of flaws in that Bills team, and now you got KC obviously next week, but we're gonna find out a lot about the Bills the next 2 weeks. I think if the Pats are healthy and they play like they did Seattle, I think them and the Bills are gonna be right there, and it'll be a battle for the AFC East.
Oh yeah, I definitely could see that. And you look at the Titans. I mean, arguably right now, as I said earlier, they very easily could be Super Bowl contenders. I think you could make an argument they're a top 3 team in the AFC, maybe even a top 2 team. I mean, yes, their defense played a lot better. I think a lot better last night than it did the first 3 weeks. I think they stopped the run. That was the big key. I'd like to see a little bit more of a pass rush from them. They as you saw last night, they were one of the worst teams getting out the field on third down. They need to improve on that. But the way Tannehill's playing, A.J. Brown last night really shows you when he's there, their offense is really good. You saw obviously Derrick Henry, shoving Josh Norman right to the ground. He's one of the top running backs in the league. So if you look at the Titans right now, I mean, I'm looking at them as a top 3 team in the AFC.
I'm with you there. That Derrick Henry is a linebacker playing running back, and I think they're right there with the Chiefs, and they're definitely right there with the Chiefs and Ravens. And I think they could, if the Chiefs defense, plays like they did last week, I think they're the number 2 team, but this is a really good team. I know, like Clowney did time to stack it. If they can get him going and kind of get that pass rush going, it's going to be a really, really dangerous team. But yeah, they're right there. They got a shot to get back to that AFC Championship game in a Super Bowl.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So, just because the Bills played last night, we're going to talk about the team the Bills are going to play Monday night, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think that's going to be a really exciting game between these two teams. It's a Monday night game. I think it's going to be really, really, really exciting. And I think it's going to be, it's going to go back and forth between both teams. I could see, Josh Allen putting up a big game, Devin Singletary playing well, Stephon Diggs playing well. But on the other side, here's the thing about Buffalo. Their defense they've definitely missed Tre'Davious White last night. Their defense has not been as good as people expected it to be. I think Patrick Mahomes is a huge, huge, huge game against this Buffalo Bills defense. And I think that the Chiefs win it. And I think they win it. I'm going 35-31 Chiefs over the Bills.
I got the Chiefs winning 28-24, bounce back week for them. And for the Chiefs, I think they ended up really missing Watkins last week. Their offense kind of got out of sync when he got hurt last week against the Raiders. It's the first time Mahomes lost a regular season game by more than 7 points. The Raiders pretty much figured out, used the formula to beat them, just keep their offense off the field. At one point, they led 18 yards I think early in the fourth quarter, late third quarter. So, and for the Bills, just bounce back week. They still have 6 days. They have one more than the Titans, but it's a weird week. This should be good, but I think we should get it on the road.
Alrighty, so before we get into most of the games, we're going to talk about one thing that happened on Sunday, and that's Dak Prescott, and just a really, really, really devastating injury from Dak Prescott on Sunday. I was watching that game, obviously, because I'm a Giants fan, and even as a Giants fan, you feel so bad for Dak Prescott. All the hard work he's put in. The last years have been his best 2 seasons, and then he ends up, breaking his ankle. Really, he got carted off the field. Just really, really ugly injury. Really sad injury for Dak Prescott. And I hope he's doing well. And for the Cowboys, I know there's the question of should you pay Dak, should you not pay Dak? But I think at this point, I feel like Jerry and Steven got to do the right thing, and they got to pay Dak Prescott. I know the game's coming. The coming games could tell. Maybe the Cowboys have success. Maybe they think about it. But honestly, I think the Cowboys got to pay Dak Prescott. Stephen Jones said a couple days ago he is our future, and I think there's no doubt you got to pay Dak.
Yeah, that was such a devastating injury. Such a tough thing to watch, and he's a guy too that you could cheer, root for. He's a good guy. Done nothing wrong. It's been a tough year for him. Everything he's gone through. Yeah, and I kind of was a guy like, maybe not 40 or, 35. I kind of feel, I think you definitely do have to pay him. He over 5,000 yards. I know they've been playing from behind, but, he was playing so well this year. I know he's made a couple mistakes late in the game, but yeah, I think you definitely you got to pay him at this point. It looked pretty bad for the Cowboys. This is how you let these Cowboys end right here.
Absolutely. And you saw, it really affected the whole team. And if you don't pay this guy, I feel like that's inexcusable of Jerry and Stephen Jones. You saw how much it hurt the team. You got to take the human element into it too. He's good enough to get it paid what he deserves. And I feel like, if it is $35 to $40 million a year, you got to pay him. You look at the numbers, even the numbers he puts up. He doesn't play defense. That defense is absolutely terrible. I feel like this is definitely a guy that should get paid. And the coming games are going to determine it. But he definitely should be getting, I'd say, $35 to $40 million a year.
Yeah, I'd probably go closer towards 35 and 40, just because he hasn't great. We haven't seen a ton of playoff success from him yet, but. Yeah, you definitely have to. It totally looked bad from the Joneses if they let him walk and this is how they end it. It'd be terrible. And he's such a big, he's one of the leaders, and just in that locker room. And yeah, obviously you could tell that Sunday. So yeah, you lose a big leader in that locker room next year if for some odd reason they don't pay him.
Now, we talked about the other Monday night game, the early Monday night game next week. Well, the Cowboys do play in the second Monday night game next week against the Arizona Cardinals. And don't forget with the Cardinals, they had a big injury too today. They lost Chandler Jones for the season as well. So that's a big injury for them. Again, then that's a defense that's been struggling. Isaiah Simmons has not lived up to potential. Patrick Peterson's past his prime. So that's a big loss for that defense because that's a defense that's been struggling. But looking at this game, I think Kyler Murray plays well in his return to Dallas. I think he has a big game on the ground and through the air. I think DeAndre Hopkins has a big game. I think Kenyon Drake runs the ball well. And for the Cowboys, I do think that Ezekiel Elliott has a good game, and I do think Andy Dalton has a pretty good game. I think this game he plays pretty well against this defense. The first game, the Cardinals defense won't have Chandler Jones. I think the Cowboys moved the ball, but in the end, I got the better quarterback winning. I got the Cardinals beating the Cowboys 31-24 on Monday night.
Yeah, I got Arizona going on the road 34-24 over Dallas. 34-27 actually. Never mind. My mistake. But yeah, I think for Arizona, losing Chandler, I think he led the league last year in sacks.
He did, not with 19 and a half. He did.
19, yeah, so you take that out. That pass rush is tough loss, and it's already Wednesday this week. So we'll see how they can game plan against it. They, Arizona looked good last week against the Jets, but
I mean, anyone could look good against the Jets.
Yeah, they could. And Joe Flacco at quarterback. But I think, Dalton's going to have some success. I think they got to start giving Elliott the ball more. I know they've been behind, but if they can kind of keep it closer, get out in front, establish a running game with Elliott. And if they can do that, Dallas has a chance to win if they can keep it out of Murray's hands.
And they did a good job of that against the Giants, especially when they got down 17-3. They started to go back to their bread and butter, and that helped, and that turned that game around when they had that big drive to get that touchdown.
Yeah, it did. Because then it just opened up play action. It instead of just dropping back, 45, 50 times that they've been doing. So yeah, they definitely got to play out from in front, and it makes them a lot tougher to defend.
Absolutely. So we'll go to the team the Cardinals played last week, and we got big news with them. We'll talk about the Jets and them releasing Le'Veon Bell, and this is just another move that just doesn't really make a lot of sense for the Jets. I mean, yes, the guy has not been as good, especially he's not been the player he was in Pittsburgh, but let's realize the offensive line hasn't been good. And another thing is you trade him and you released him and you got nothing. You got absolutely nothing for him. You could have gotten a 4th or 5th round pick for Le'Veon Bell. It makes absolutely no sense why the Jets would just release him. I mean, and it all started with him and Adam Gase. He was unhappy with the Jets, and obviously he should be unhappy with the Jets. I mean, the Jets are just an absolute train wreck of an organization, and it's an embarrassment. And listen, Le'Veon Bell is not the player he once was, but I still think he can make an impact in this league.
He definitely could. And I did see the Jets could not even get a late round pick for him. I guess they have until 4 today to try to still trade him. But I don't know, you remember he called out Jamal Adams, when he got traded, and he pretty much did the same thing, kind of calling out the coaches, calling out Adam Gase the other day. He pretty much did the same thing, but yeah, they never used him right. And I know Gase didn't want him from the beginning. I know he took over the job after they already signed Bell, but yeah, they never really gave him a chance, because he could have been a sign, he could have been a big help for this offense, which does not have much right now at all. Besides, maybe James Crowder's probably their best weapon now. It's just a Jets, and I can't believe Le'Veon Bell and Jamal Adams are gone before Adam Gase is.
Yeah, that's what makes no sense. Adam Gase should have been fired after week 4. It's absolutely. I don't get why he wasn't fired after week 4. The team has pretty much quit on him. The team hasn't practiced hard. You've heard players say that. Dexter McDougal and Avery Williamson, they've already said the team hasn't practiced hard for Adam Gase. I don't get why Adam Gase is still employed. I honestly, as a head coach, I just don't get it at all. He should easily be fired. I don't get that at all. And you look at possible landing spots for Le'Veon Bell. One of them is obviously the Chicago Bears. I think that would be a really good spot. David Montgomery really hasn't gotten the job done for them. They lost Tariq Cohen for the season. This is a guy that could. This is a guy that could be in the backfield with David Montgomery. He can also catch balls out of the backfield. He can improve that Chicago running game. And Chicago at 4-1, that's a very good shot to be a playoff team. Definitely to get one of those wild cards. Another team, the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, yes, they do have Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds, but some of those guys are inconsistent. Yeah, they ran the ball well against the Jets, but anybody could run the ball well against the Jets. I mean, if you bring in Le'Veon Bell, I think he improves depth to that backfield, and that's going to help Kyler Murray off play action and help the Cardinals try to get one of those playoff spots as well. Another team is the Los Angeles Chargers. Now they're 1-4, but I think he could definitely help them be in that because Austin Eckler's out, and he could be in that backfield with Joshua Kelly. And you saw Justin Herbert the other night. Justin Herbert is, I think, going to be a really, really good quarterback in this league. He looks great, even though the Chargers have lost games due to coaching and them not being able to make a field goal at the end of the game. Justin Herbert looks like he's the real deal. So if they want to stay in that playoff race, I think this could be a signing that could help the Chargers. And the last team is the Buffalo Bills. Last night, Devin Singletary, Zach Moss has been hurt. Devin Singletary really didn't get the job done on the ground, which didn't help Josh Allen last night. I think getting Bell there to improve that depth, that really could help them as well.
Yeah, I think the Bears, I think, would probably be the best spot. I think just because now it really would help out Nick Foles as well. And I think it would open up the passing game, which, they haven't been great with in the last few years. I also again, maybe this is my Patriot kind of bias, but I would love to see him go to New England. And I know, because Michelle's banged up. I know Damian Harris has looked good. Rex Burkhead's looked pretty good so far. But I think with him and Cam and what they'd be able to do, I would love to see that fit. I don't think they, I don't think they ever talked to him when he was in free agency. It seems like one of these pickups that Bill would, is definitely thinking about, and Le'Veon would get to play the Jets twice this year.
For the Patriots, yeah, it'd be twice. Bills would only be once.
Yeah,
because they already played him.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would love to see him be a Patriot. I think it would really and give us another offensive weapon because we really do not have a ton of those guys right now.
Oh, absolutely. And don't forget, Bell averaged 4.6 yards a carry. He was hurt for three of the four games, and then he came back last Sunday, and he averaged 4.6 yards a carry. So he's not the player he was in Pittsburgh, but he definitely has a little bit left in the tank.
He definitely does, and because the way the Jets use him too, they didn't really gave him a ton of carries. They didn't really wear him down or so yeah, he's definitely still's got a lot of time. He's definitely got a lot left in the tank.
Absolutely. So we'll see what ends up happening with Le'Veon Bell. But we'll move to another story in the league and what happened on Sunday after the Falcons 23-16 loss to the Panthers. They end up finally firing head coach Dan Quinn and GM Thomas Dimitroff. And Thomas Dimitroff, he came from the Patriots. He's been there since Matt Ryan's been drafted. He was the guy who drafted Matt Ryan. And they obviously hire Raheem Morris to be the interim head coach. He was a head coach in Tampa Bay for 3 years too. So and this should have happened. No, this is where people get this wrong. This should not have happened after the Super Bowl. I think that's a complete exaggeration. The guy gets the team to the Super Bowl. He shouldn't get fired. Even though he blew a 28-3 lead, there's no way he should get fired. When this should have happened was in the middle of the season last year when they started 1-7, or at the end of the year last year. Even what saved his job last year is they went 6-2 down the stretch, and they played better down the stretch. But that was fool's gold because the team has started 0-5. They've had two epic collapses to the Cowboys and the Bears, and this move definitely had to happen. They needed to change. I don't know if Raheem Morris is going to become the head coach, but he's got still with a team that is not a horrendous team. I would not consider them a bottom 5 team in the league. I think the Giants, the Jets, the Redskins, the Bengals, the Jaguars, I think they're all worse than the Falcons. So Raheem Morris, it's not like he has no shot, but he's still got to play Tampa Bay and New Orleans twice. So I think that it's going to be hard for him to get the job. And looking at Dimitroff getting fired, he was the guy who drafted Matt Ryan. Now the question is, what is the future of Matt Ryan with the Atlanta Falcons? Now, if you look at Ryan's cap number, they're going to be on the hook for a ton of dead money the next 2 years. So if they want to release him, really realistically, they could really the next time they could release him is probably 2022. So they're probably going to end up having to trade him if they're going to want to get rid of him. And you heard T.I. the other day on First Take say, "Oh, I want Matt Ryan out of here." Well, it's a little bit harder than that with seeing what his cap hit is when the Falcons gave him that huge contract after he won the MVP. So it's a mess in Atlanta. There's a lot of uncertainty in Atlanta. And what are your thoughts on it, Justin?
Yeah, there is a lot. It's a mess right now. And this team has talent, especially in the offensive
side.
Gotcha. Yeah, they have a ton of talent too. So yeah, again, I don't think they're gonna we'll have to go 11-0 to be candidate. Yeah, I don't think that's happening. So yeah, he's got a pretty slim shot at that. That's a true statement by Arthur Blank. For Ryan too, it's a tough spot, and this is what's the problem sometimes with these kind of QB contracts when they get older, and especially when your team starts to struggle, and you rather maybe go young, get another quarterback, but it's such a tough mess right now in Atlanta. And it's a division right now too where you got Tampa. I know the Saints have been, have not looked great so far. The Panthers look like they're building something. So, it's kind of, you look at the future, there's possibility that, it could be anybody's division. But yeah, I think it's a mess. And again, maybe it's time to maybe draft somebody later, like maybe like a second, third rounder quarterback and kind of develop them and see what happens going into next year and let the new coach pick that quarterback, and let the new coach. But yeah, it's such a bad, tough situation in Atlanta right now. For a couple years ago, being in the Super Bowl, and they definitely shouldn't have fired him after the Super Bowl loss. That was ridiculous. He just got him there. They still have talent, but it's been a tough few years for the Falcons. They just cannot, hold on, and they just got to find a way to close out games.
Oh, it absolutely has. And I mean, and talking about Matt Ryan, I mean, I saw with Eli Manning, yeah, getting older, the team's starting to struggle. Even though it's not completely your fault, they're definitely going to want to move on from you. And you heard Arthur Blank this week. He's uncommitted if Matt Ryan is going to be the starting quarterback. He's not completely committed if he's going to be the starting quarterback going forward. So that's going to be really, really interesting to talk about going forward. I heard Mike Greenberg on Get Up but say today that if the Colts traded for Matt Ryan, they would be a Super Bowl contender. And I don't completely agree there, but I think they would at least be, a team that would get a wild card and maybe make a playoff run if they traded for Matt Ryan. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Arthur Blank's not committed to him, and and they announced after the game on Sunday there's going to be major changes in Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't, Matt Ryan goes to Indianapolis. That's definitely a solid team. I don't know. Definitely don't think they, make them a Super Bowl contender. Especially with how good the Titans are right now, they'd be right there neck and neck. But the only thing is, I would just keep, because it's not like they have a young quarterback on the bench. It's Matt Schwab. It's not like they have this young guy that they can kind of get some reps in and see what they have to work with. So I know they're uncommitted to keep, but why just bench Matt Ryan? You still have a good offense, just all the weapons around you. It's kind of been more the defense, but I think it's also some of the play calling as well late in the game. I don't think they've been great at it. So I would probably stick with Matt Ryan the rest of the year, unless you trade him, and you would definitely have to go get a quarterback, and you hope it'd be a younger guy that maybe has a chance to be your next franchise quarterback right now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the Falcons do going forward. Right now, they're 0-5. They've been 7-9 the last 2 years. They got to turn things around in Atlanta. Let's see if they're going to do it. But we got to get to Sunday's slate, and we're going to start with my team. We're going to start with the Giants, who host the Washington football team. Very, very winnable game for the Giants this week against the Washington football team. I think it's going to be a close, competitive game. I think on offense, I think they're going to do enough, not be dominant on the ground, but they're going to do enough on the ground with Gallman and Devontae Freeman, who played well last week, to contain Chase Young. The one thing that scares me in this game as a Giants fan is that the Giants can't run the football. Chase Young, yes, he was banged up last week when he played against the Rams, but I feel like he's getting more healthy. If the Giants can't run the ball, Chase Young could have a field day against Andrew Thomas and Daniel Jones, and that could completely wreck the game. But I think the Giants run the ball enough. So, yes, Chase Young will make an impact on the game, but I don't think he'll wreck the game. And on defense, I think Kyle Allen will make some plays in the game, but I think the Giants defense will, shut the run game down of the Redskins. Kyle Allen will make some plays, but I think he makes a mistake or two. And I think Daniel Jones makes more plays and less mistakes than Kyle Allen. And I got Joe Judge getting his first win on Sunday with the Giants beating the Washington football team 20-16.
Yeah, I got the Giants picking up win number 1, 23-20. I've been disappointed with Washington's last few weeks with their disappointment. I know they've been missing Chase Young, but still, Jared Goff was absolutely just on fire last week. And especially in the defensive side of the ball, they were not great the last few weeks. I think one point Jared Goff was like 13-14. I think the Giants should be able to put up some points in this game. The thing about Jones, it's the turnover problems. If you can get rid of that, I think he can be a really solid quarterback in this league. But until he gets rid of that, but I think the Giants should be able to pick up the win 23-20 and kind of hopefully kickstart something for him and get the first win for the two big New York teams in the NFL.
And I think this is the first game that Daniel Jones won't have a turnover since the game against the Washington football team last year in December. And I think a big reason for that is I don't think he's going to have to make a ton of plays, so he's not going to force a lot of throws. Hopefully he's able to hang on to the ball. And I think on defense, the biggest thing for the Giants is I think the biggest threat the Redskins have is Terry McLaurin. I think James Bradberry is going to shadow him all game, which is going to force Kyle Allen, who I'm pretty sure is going to play, to force to throw the ball to other guys, and the Redskins do not have a ton of guys outside of Terry McLaurin. That's why I think the Giants do win a close one.
Yeah, because Bradbury's been a huge pickup for you guys because he did a pretty good job last week on Amari Cooper. If he can definitely shut McLaurin down, which I think he will, it's going to make life so much tougher for Washington to find that other receivers because they don't really have a ton right now that are going to kill you week in and week out.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So we got to get to your Patriots, and they're going to try it again against the Broncos this week, as last week, unfortunately, due to COVID, their game got postponed to this week, and it should cause a ton of schedule changes around the NFL. But this week, the Broncos headed to New England to face the Patriots. Broncos came down with some bad news today as Melvin Gordon got arrested for a DUI and speeding, so he's probably not going to play in the game. That's going to change my prediction a little. Yes, I was going to pick the Patriots, but that's going to change my prediction a little bit. Yes, Joe, the score I have is not accurate at this point. I got the Patriots winning by a little bit more now because of Gordon not being there. Because I think the Patriots will be able to. I think they're going to be able to shut down the run game. I think Drew Lock will make his plays, but he'll make some mistakes because Belichick does really well against young quarterbacks. I think Drew Lock is his first game back since week 2. So I think Lock's going to make some mistakes against Belichick's defense. And I think on offense, yes, I think the Broncos will be able to contain the run game, but I think Cam Newton has another big game for the Patriots. I think he gets the ball to N'Keal Harry. I think he does a good job on the ground. I think he throws a couple touchdown passes, and I got the Patriots winning it, and I got them winning it 27-16.
I got the Patriots. I had it originally 24-17 Patriots. Now I got it 24-13 Patriots. It'll be good for the Broncos to get Drew Lock back, but it definitely now hurts. No Gordon. But for the Patriots, they've been kind of – because this will probably be their bye week. They're still taking like a bye week. I know they haven't practiced the last few days. I think today the guys are going to work out, and then tomorrow they're going to start practice. So it's a weird week, too, to get ready for a game with everything going on. Both teams have had 2 weeks to kind of prep for this. So I especially think, too, that Bill's going to have a really good scouting report on Drew Lock, and he's going to make things really difficult. Also, Cam Gilmore should be able to go as well. And then Edelman, too, he's been banged up, so you get him an extra week of rest too. So they should be able to take care of business at home with San Francisco looming next week.
Yeah, I think looking at their schedule up to the Buffalo game, I think this should be a win. And I think San Francisco, the way San Francisco's played, that should be a win too. So it probably is going to set up as that Buffalo matchup on November 1st is going to be for first place.
Yeah, definitely, especially the way, last few weeks, I thought, maybe that's going to be a tough one. But with everything going on with the Niners, I definitely think that they should be able to now get through San Francisco and, set up that big game in Buffalo in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. But we got to get to a big matchup in Pittsburgh because we got an AFC North matchup in Pittsburgh between the 4-0 Steelers and the 4-1 Browns. And the Browns have been a surprise team this year. And a big reason for that is because of the way they've been able to run the football. Kevin Stefanski's going to get done a great job building an identity for this football team of running the football and having Baker Mayfield play action. That's really, 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 really huge for the Browns. And that was the one key I had before the season. If they were able to have success running the football, I felt like they definitely had a chance to be a playoff team, and they have a great chance to be a playoff team right now. And for the Steelers, Big Ben had a good week last week, and the guy who stepped up, obviously the guy from Notre Dame, Chase Claypool, had a huge week with 4 touchdowns last week. One of my issues about the Steelers going into the year was their weapons on offense. I think they got 2 good ones now with Juju and Chase Claypool. I think Chase Claypool is going to get more reps. For this game, I feel like this is going to be a close, competitive, tough AFC North battle. I think for the Steelers, I think that Big Ben has a pretty good game getting the ball to Claypool, getting the ball to to Juju. I think where the Steelers might struggle, though, is protecting Ben. I think Myles Garrett and Olivier Vernon are going to get pressure on Big Ben. I think they're also going to struggle to run the ball. The Browns have done a really good job stopping the run this year too. So I don't think Connor's going to have that big of a game. But on the other side of the ball, I think that the Steelers will get pressure on Baker Mayfield, and the Steelers defense is going to take away the one thing the Browns do great is that running game. I feel like the Steelers have one of the best front sevens in football. The Steelers are going to take away that running game from the Cleveland Browns, force Baker Mayfield to win the game. And you know when Baker Mayfield's got to win the game, especially against a good team, that's not a good sign. I think he'll make some mistakes. I do think they move the ball a little bit with Odell and Jarvis, but at the end of the day, I think the quarterback who plays better and makes less mistakes is going to win the game. And that's why I got the Steelers beating the Browns 23-16.
I get the Steelers 20-16. I think with Baker being banged up, I know ribs injury right now. I think the pressure that the Steelers are going to be able to put on him, and I think he's going to force a couple mistakes. I think mistakes. So I think Cleveland's going to have a rough day trying to move the football against the Steelers. And I'm surprised the Steelers defense so far, only 5 takeaways. You know, that they were so good at doing that last year. And I know on the defensive side that they do have Big Ben back, so they're not so dependent on the defense side of the ball. But I fear they have a bit more right now. It just seems every wide receiver the Steelers draft just turns into like a star. You know, they do a great job of finding wide receivers that have been really good at the NFL level. I think they'll have some success offensively. I think it'll be close, and I think like the Steelers force a turnover late, make it 20-16. But this should be good. And when's the last time we've seen the Cleveland Browns playing a big game? It's been a long time.
Absolutely, that's what getting talent and having a good coach does, though. That's exactly what it does.
Yeah, definitely. The last good coach they had probably Belichick.
Exactly, you're right about that. Yeah, it's been a really long time. But we got an NFC matchup in Minnesota as the 0-5 Falcons, first game with Raheem Morris, head to Minnesota to face the Vikings. And before we talk about the game, we got to talk about the interesting coaching move for Mike Zimmer last week, going for it on 4th and 1 and not kicking the field goal, and pretty much giving Russell Wilson and ended up giving Russell Wilson the ball, and he scored the game. They lose by 1 point. You could go either way with this, but in my opinion, because your defense had played well, it hadn't been on the field that long in that game. I know it's Russell Wilson, but I probably would have kicked the 3, gotten the 8-point lead, because they would have had to get a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, and they ended up missing the 2-point conversion anyway. So in a tough call, and you pretty much could have gone either way. I mean, you could make an argument either way with what Mike Zimmer could have done there. I would have kicked the field goal to go up by 8 and trust my defense that had played well all night long to make a stop, or even make a stop, or even if the Seahawks did score, they still would have had to get the 2-point conversion.
I'm going to disagree with you here. I think it was the right call to go for it. Now, I don't know, because after the game, I saw it was like a bird's eye view of, the play. Madison had the hole. The hole was there, and it would have been a touchdown if he hit the hole, and he kind of went more inside and just ran into to the lineman. So if the play was executed right, it would have been a touchdown and it would have sealed it. And I don't. And for me, too, why I would have gone for it. And I know they didn't get it and they still lost, but I wouldn't want Russell Wilson to have the ball in his hand.
That's a really good point.
Late in the game with a chance to win it, just about how good he's been. And you kind of knew that offense was, that offense. I know they had a couple of short fields to play with. They forced a couple of turnovers. But they give him a chance with the game on the line. I felt like in that spot, he's going to be able to get it done. And that's why I agreed with Mike Zimmer. If Madison hit the right hole, it would have been a touchdown.
Yeah, it could have went either way. But for this game against the Falcons, I think even though Dalvin Cook is out, I think Alexander Madison has a good day on the ground. I think Kirk Cousins plays well. He gets the ball to Adam Thielen, gets the ball to Justin Jefferson. I think the Vikings put up some points. And on defense, I think they get pressure on Matt Ryan. I think they're able to contain Todd Gurley. And I got the Vikings winning this one. I got them winning by double digits. I got the Vikings going to 2-4. Falcons go to 0-6. I got the Vikings winning 28-17.
I got Minnesota win this one 30-27. I think it's going to be kind of I think Atlanta's going to be able to hang around. I think they'll be able to get some points. Right now, I'm kind of it's my, I kind of Falcons 2 scoring 27. I'm anticipating Julio Jones to play. I'm not sure if he is or not yet, but I'm kind of anticipating that. I think it would really help out them more. Obviously, if he plays, Gurley ran the ball well last week. If they're able to kind of do that and keep it close, I think really helps this offense because they've not been great the last 2 years at running the football. But yeah, again, Matt, it's definitely a great second back here without Cook, and Minnesota should be able to score some points, and I expect Kirk Cousins to play a really good game against a weak Falcon secondary. Even though AJ Terrell's looked pretty good, I know that was a reach, but he has looked pretty good so far. The few games that he's played, though, I've kind of been impressed with him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he's played great because the secondary for Atlanta's not been that good, but he's probably the best of the best. He's probably the best player in a terrible secondary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, I know they're not great, but there's a bright light, I guess you could say, with him. Maybe in that secondary with him.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening there. But we got an AFC South matchup in Tennessee as the Texans travel to Tennessee to face the Titans. And this pick's going to surprise you. Okay, it's going to surprise some people. I know the Titans are probably the better team. They're the better overall team. But let's not forget the Texans do have the better quarterback. Deshaun Watson is a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill. I don't want to hear about the record. Deshaun Watson is better than Ryan Tannehill. And I think in this game, because the Titans are on a short week and they're a little bit tired from their win against the Bills, I think that Houston plays well in this game. I think that with Romeo Cornell last week, their defense was improved, and Deshaun Watson played a pretty good game. And I think Deshaun Watson plays another good game. I think he has another really good game. Get the ball to Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks. I think David Johnson gets some yards on the ground as well. And for Tennessee, I feel like Derrick Henry will get his yards on the ground, and Ryan Tannehill will make some plays. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with an upset here. And I'm going with the Texans to upset the Titans 27-24.
Wow, really? I don't think the Texans have much of it. I think Tennessee wins this thing 34-24. I just don't know about. I just think Derrick Henry's gonna be able to run all over this team. I know it's a short week. It's a really weird week because it's already Wednesday. This Texans D, I know they looked a little bit better, but they haven't forced a turnover yet. And on offense, they've already given up 16 sacks. So I think this is a week where Jadeveon Clowney comes back to Houston, and I think he could have 2 or 3 sacks in this game. I think he could dominate this. I think Tannehill plays well. And, obviously, Watson is obviously the better quarterback than Tannehill is. I think Houston's defense really struggles in this game. So I got Tennessee 34-24.
We got a matchup in Carolina of two very surprising teams. The 4-1 Bears head down to Carolina to face the 3-2 Panthers. And I think this is going to be a close, really, really close competitive game. I think this will be the best game I feel like David Montgomery has on the ground because the Panthers' run defense isn't that good. I think Nick Foles will convert enough third downs. I think Teddy Bridgewater will make his plays. I think they'll get the run game going with Bonifant and Davis. I think Teddy Bridgewater will make his plays to DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. But I think this game comes down to the end where the Chicago Bears got to make a stop on defense. And this has happened 3 times this year, or I think even 4 times this year, and they've done it all 4 times. And I don't think that's going to change on Sunday. I got the Bears winning in Carolina 24-20 over the Panthers.
This is probably the toughest game to pick for me this week, and I got Carolina winning at 23-20 at home. They're looking for the 4th straight win, and they've looked so good the last few weeks. They started 0-2, but they should, I think at home this week they should be able to get it going. Once again, I think they can make Chicago, one-dimensional. If they can kind of slow down Montgomery, I know Panthers haven't been great stopping the run, but if you can try to make Nick Foles beat you through the air, because this Carolina secondary has played pretty well so far for all the young guys that they got. For Chicago, they played well against Tampa Bay last week. The offense, Jimmy Graham looked pretty good at tight end. But I really like the way Carolina's been. Both teams have been playing really well. Both teams have been a surprise to this point. But I think Carolina should be able to get the win and move to 4-2 in the are 4-2 so far.
We have a AFC matchup in Indianapolis. The teams are pretty close to each other. It's Cincinnati. It's the Bengals. When the Bengals will head up to Indy to face the Colts. And in this game, it's interesting because the Bengals do have the better quarterback in Joe Burrow, but the Colts definitely are the better team. I think, and I think in this game, the Colts are going to win. I think they're going to win it by 2 scores. And here's the reason why. I think the Colts are going to be able to get the ground game going like they didn't last week with Jonathan Taylor. So Phillip Rivers will just only have to manage the game instead of have to go out and win the game like he did last week. And at his age, that's pretty much all he can do right now. And I think on the defensive side of the ball, I think this Colts defense, if Darius Leonard plays, which was a big loss last week for the Colts, that he didn't play, that's why the Browns had success on the ground. And if Darius Leonard plays, I think they're going to be able to shut down Joe Mixon. And I think they're going to be able to get pressure on Joe Burrow all day. The Bengals have the worst offensive line in football. There's no question the Bengals line is the worst in the league. I think they're going to get pressure on Joe Burrow all day. And I got the Colts winning by 2 scores. I got the Colts beating the Bengals 24-13.
Yeah, I got the Colts 27-20 or 27-20 at home. Right now, because I know Leonard's questionable, so if he doesn't play, I think the Bengals may have some success moving the ball. Probably not a ton. I still think the Colts are going to be able to get pressure because Burrow was sacked 7 times last week. It's just, tough to get anything going when you're being, you're running for your life every single play. Rivers has got to stop with the turnovers. I think he may make one. I think he'll probably make one mistake again. I think they should be able to get back to the run game this week. They should be able to play from in front. And if they do that, they should be able to take care of business. But I think Cincinnati is going to keep it close, but the Colts should be able to get the win.
The Ravens head up by 95 to face the Eagles this week. And I think in this game, this is another game that is fit for the Ravens to win. I think they're able to, even though the Eagles have a pretty good run defense with Fletcher Cox, the Eagles linebackers are the worst in the league. They're probably the worst linebacking core in the league. So I think the Ravens will still have success running the ball with Gus Edwards, Mark Ingram, and J.K. Dobbins. I think Lamar Jackson is going to be able to make plays to Hollywood Brown because it looks like Darius Slay is not going to play. He's not going to get out of concussion protocol. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I think they're going to get pressure on Carson Wentz. And the Eagles' offensive line has struggled this year. Yes, some of those sacks last week, the Steelers did get 5 sacks, but some of those sacks were coverage sacks. But looking at the Eagles, they don't have Lane Johnson. They might not have Jason Peters again. So I think they're going to struggle. On that side, the Eagles are going to struggle to protect Carson Wentz. I think Wentz will make plays, but not enough. And I got the Ravens beating the Eagles 27-17.
I get Baltimore going on the road 28-16. Baltimore they should be able to have no problems on the ground this week against the Eagles. I think they're going to get tons of pressure on Carson Wentz, and they're going to make him, he's going to make a couple of mistakes. They've already have 9 turnovers too so far, and I just and now without Slay too, I think it's even tough now to slow Baltimore down the few passes that they're going to throw in this game. It could be a long day for the Eagles, but they should be able to get some points, but obviously not enough.
We got the Lions heading down to Jacksonville to face the Jaguars. And I think this is a really, really close competitive game. But in this game, I'm going to take the better quarterback. I think Matthew Stafford has a lot of success in this game. I think Adrian Peterson has success on the ground. I think that'll help Stafford off play action, getting the ball to Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones. So I think the Lions put up some points in this game. I do think Jacksonville puts up points too. I think they run the ball with James Robinson. I think Gardner Minshew has a pretty good game as well. But at the end of the day, I think the Lions have the better quarterback, and I think they make the stop on defense with Minshew driving down the field at the end. And I got the Lions beating the Jaguars 28-24.
I get the Jags winning 31-27. The Jags had a couple of chances last week. They missed some opportunities when in the red zone. They missed a couple of field goals and they had a fumble. So they easily could have won that game last week in Houston. I think Gardner Minshew is going to absolutely tear up Detroit's secondary. And then again, James Robinson, the Lions are 30th in the league against the run. Oh, I think James Robinson's going to have a big game on the ground. And for the Lions, I'm not picking the Lions. I don't even care if they were playing the Jets this year. I'd still pick the Jets over the Lions. I just don't like Matt Patricia as a head coach right now. I didn't really like what he said last week in the press conference.
Oh, that was embarrassing. I had work to do. Jim Caldwell went. He had 3 winning seasons. Went 9-7 in his last season, and you've been 10-25-1. You have the audacity to say you got a lot of work to do. That shows you why you should not be a head coach in the NFL.
Yeah. You should have kind of had to get another piece or two and make you above 500, but he's done the complete opposite of that. And I won't be picking the Lions, so I'm going to go to Jags 31-27.
Got a huge matchup in Tampa Bay as the 4-0 Packers travel down to Tampa to face the 3-2 Bucks. And I think this is going to be an exciting game. 4:25 Fox. Joe and Troy will be on the call. I think this is going to be a really exciting game between two of the best quarterbacks of our generation with Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Obviously, clearly first ballot Hall of Famers. And in this game, I think the team that runs the ball better is going to win it. And that's why I got the Bucks. I think the Bucks are going to be able to run the ball with Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones. Green Bay's weakness is their defense, their run defense. So I think they'll be able to run the ball with those two guys. And I think on the defensive side of the ball, I think the Buccaneers will be able to contain Aaron Jones. I think Vea is definitely a loss. Losing Vea is going to be a loss. But I think with Devin White and Levante David, I think with those linebackers playing, I think they're going to be able to limit the production of Aaron Jones, force a lot of it on Aaron Rodgers. And I think Aaron Rodgers will have a big game too. But with 10 days off for the Buccaneers, they're starting to get healthy with Fournette. Hopefully Godwin plays as well. I think this is going to be a really, really close, competitive game. But I got Tampa beating Green Bay 31-27. I'm not going against Tampa Bay.
Really? I'm going up against my boy Brady. I got the Packers 31-28. I think losing Bay, I think Aaron Jones will be able to run the ball. Green Bay's been better against the run, but again, this is kind of their first really big running back they faced. I know they faced Minnesota, but they were so out ahead that Minnesota really couldn't run the football. But I didn't like Tampa Bay's offense. I know Chicago's got a good defense. Their defense kind of looks like Steve from a couple years ago. They have the most holding calls right now in the league. Tom Brady looked just like last year, just a lot of frustration right now. I think they'll put up some points, but I really like the way Rodgers has been playing. I think Adams is going to play. I know he's still questionable, but I think he's leaning towards, he'll be able to give it a go. They get him back. Rodgers right now, 13 touchdowns with no interceptions. He's got something to prove right now, and I'm not going to pick against him. I'll go with the Packers 31-28.
We got an AFC East matchup down in Miami, and usually this is a competitive game, but seeing what's happening with the Jets this week, I can't see this being a competitive game. I think the Dolphins win big, and I think they win big for the second week in a row. I think Myles Gaskins has a big week on the ground. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's been playing really well since the opening game, I think he gets the ball to Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki and Preston Williams. And I think on the other side for the Jets, yes, I did have this 31-17, but I think it's because that was before Le'Veon Bell, got released. I think this is going to be worse. I think they're not going to protect Sam. Depending on who plays Sam Darnold or Joe Flacco, they're not going to be able to protect either. They're not going to be able to get the run game going. I think this is going to be a complete mess. I got the Dolphins winning, and I got them winning by 3 scores. I got the Dolphins winning 31-10 over the Jets. And if this is in Adam Gase's last game, I have no clue what the Jets are looking at.
Yeah, so I get right before we went on the air, I did hear Joe Flacco is starting. They did rule out Darnold, so it will be Joe Flacco. And I'm changing my score too. I did originally 34-14 Miami. I got it 34-10 now. So you got the vintage, Joe Flacco and Frank Gore in the backfield.
That was good in 2012. I mean, those two guys were in the Super Bowl in 2012. Not good in 2020.
10 years ago. Really gave Jets a much better shot, those two, but not now. And I don't know. Now, Adam Gase said he may give up the play calling.
That thing is a mess. That thing is so inconsistent. Oh, I might give up the play calling duties. Now, you should have given up the play calling duties right when you became a head coach. Now he wants to be there for the team right when he's on the brink of getting fired. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it's bad. And I don't know if you saw that play. It was 3rd-and-1 last week. And they handed the ball off to a tight end.
What?
It's just, I feel bad for Jeff, man. This is just, this is awful. Miami should win big. They have no problems.
Yeah, this is going on 1-15 or 0-16 for the Jets. Yeah. But we got to wrap up with the games this week, and we're going to talk about a NFC West matchup on Sunday Night Football as the Rams travel to Santa Clara to face the 49ers. And in this game, I think this is a close, competitive game. But I think the difference in this game is going to be which quarterback makes less mistakes. And I think the quarterback that's going to make less mistakes is going to be Jared Goff, because I think there's problems with the 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo. I thought last week it made absolutely no sense. I mean, I know he was a little banged up, but he wasn't on the final injury report, and the Niners bench Garoppolo at halftime. That makes no sense at all. I mean, that makes no sense to me at all why they bench Garoppolo. I think they're messing with his head. I think things are not good right now in San Francisco. I think in this game, the Rams, I think their defense is going to force a turnover or two from Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they're going to get pressure on him with Aaron Donald. I think Jalen Ramsey's going to have a good game too. And I think for the Rams, I think, they might not have a great game offensively, but I don't think they make the mistakes offensively. And I think Jared Goff makes enough plays getting the ball to Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. They get enough yards on the ground. And I got the Rams winning this one in a close one, 23-20. And the big question is, what's going to happen with Jimmy Garoppolo? What are the Niners going to do? I thought coming to the season, he was clearly their franchise quarterback. It looks like right now there's a lot of questions there.
Yeah, I got the Rams 27-17. I thought they kind of more benched because he still looked like he was banged up. He still did not look like he was 100% healthy. I know he played awful, but I still don't think he was healthy last week. I really don't. And I don't know if he's going to be healthy this week. I don't know what their plans are with him, but, I think he's playing right now. But, yeah, it took me injury because he did look really, really awful. And it looked like all the injuries caught up to the team. And for the Rams, I think they've been a surprise so far. They've really looked good, and I think they should be able to go to 5-1. They already got 7 sacks. I think they'll get pressure on Jimmy G or Mullins, whoever they start at quarter.
Or Beathard. They could start Beathard too.
Yeah, Beathard. Whoever they play at quarterback, I think the Rams will be able to get pressure, and they should be able to go looking 5-1. Yeah,
so we'll see how we do on our picks this week. You're right now, I think you're leading CMG. Your record is right now 54, 22-1. I did get a game on you. I'm a 49, 27-1. This is a big week because I think we disagree. We didn't have the same pick on like 4 or 5 games. So I could close the one game within a game of you, or you could be up like 9 or 10 games on me. So this is a big week in terms of that. But we got to move on to the NBA. This will be the last time we talk about the NBA for a while, and we got to talk about what happened Sunday night as the Lakers won their 17th championship, beating the Heat 106-93. This game pretty much was over at halftime as the Lakers led by 30. I think, obviously, the move to get Anthony Davis was the move that got them to a championship. Obviously, getting LeBron 2 years ago was a huge move as well. And I think the Lakers, it was really between them and the Clippers pretty much the entire season. And then once the Clippers went out, they were the clear favorite. I mean, all the credit to the Heat. They were scrappy. They won that game 5 that nobody thought they were going to win. Jimmy Butler had an outstanding series, but at the end of the day, here's the thing in the NBA: organizations don't win championships, players do, and the Lakers proved that, beating the Heat in 6.
Yeah, it was a great effort from the Heat, and in Game 6 too, it just looked like Butler, which is gas too. I know he had. He only had like 12 points in the game, I think. He looked gassed, and that second quarter they kind of just took over, a couple of turnovers by the Heat. And then when you get 19 points from Rondo and 17 from KCP, it's tough to beat them. And 2 years ago when they got the Lakers, they're hoping to bring back. When LeBron went to the Lakers, they're hoping to kind of bring back that championship pedigree. They were able to do it this year, and bringing in Anthony Davis just helped that out even more to bring in his sidekick or partner. I wouldn't call him sidekick because he's a great player. But, this team was just tough to stop. And the Clippers probably were – if the Clippers were in the Western Conference Finals, the winner of that series would have won the NBA Finals. Those two teams were the best two in the NBA.
Absolutely. And, I think AD obviously was the perfect teammate for LeBron. Didn't care about being, the alpha male. They were pretty much 1A and 1B all year long. And I think that was the ultimate reason, because I think that was the issue with Kawhi and Paul George. I mean, they kind of cared about who that guy was going to be. It didn't matter with the Lakers with AD and LeBron, and that's why they're champions.
Yeah, now. And, because it seemed like Paul George, Kawhi, they both kind of want to be that guy one night, and it just seemed one of them would do too much in that game when the other was kind of having a big night. Yeah, and LeBron and AD just didn't seem to care. Who had the bigger game or the better game, and it really did show. And just the way Anthony Davis plays, he's just so tough to defend with everything he can do. Um, yeah, I definitely do agree. Anthony Davis has been LeBron's best teammate so far in his career.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now that the finals are over and LeBron got his fourth ring, we do have to talk about where his place is in history. In my opinion, he's obviously number two. He's clearly number two with right behind Michael Jordan. A lot of people will argue he's right there with Jordan or even better than Jordan. Here's my argument against that. Yes, I'll admit I did not see Michael. Pretty much, I saw the end of Jordan's career with the Bulls, so I didn't really watch the whole career of Michael Jordan. But one thing I do know is Michael Jordan never lost to a team that he was better than. If you look at the series Jordan lost early in his career, one of them was to the most of them. I think three of them were the Bad Boy Pistons, and one of them was to the Celtics with Larry Bird, McHale, and Parrish. Those teams were clearly better than his Bulls teams at the time. And I'm not going to really count '95 because he came into that season late when they lost to the Magic that year. But if you look at pretty much Jordan's career, he never lost to a team that he was better than. That's not the case for LeBron, because if you remember in 2011, that Heat team was better than that Dallas team, and he didn't play that well in that series against the Mavericks. And let me tell you, if you want to be the best and you want to be on Michael Jordan's level, you can't lose that series. Michael Jordan does not lose that series. LeBron loses to the Mavs. That's why I would say Jordan is the best and LeBron is number two.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Jordan 1, LeBron 2 for me. I also think it's a 6. Finals losses that he's had. I know you talked about 2011.
2011 is the biggest one for me because all the other five, I felt like he didn't have the better team in those series. But 2011 is the big one for me.
And then the other big one for me too is, I think for Jordan was pretty much, I know it's different eras, but the teams that Jordan had to go through too. Obviously the Bad Boy Pistons, those Knicks teams in the '90s. And I know LeBron could have faced the Clippers. That could have been a really good team. That would have been a good test for him. But I think in Jordan 2 was more feared, and LeBron's because now everybody's buddies with each other. So LeBron's really respected, but everybody feared Michael Jordan. And then also too, in Game 5, when he passed it out to Danny Green, no way Michael Jordan does that. Michael Jordan goes and wins that game himself. He doesn't pass that ball out. And I also think that's why, another reason, LeBron will do whatever he has to do to win, but Jordan will take it to that next step. And I also think that's why I put Jordan ahead of LeBron.
Yeah, it's very close between the two. The two are just completely outstanding. I don't want to start this as a debate that we're knocking LeBron's greatness and he's not as good as Michael Jordan. They're both phenomenal players, but just in my opinion, I just think Jordan is just not much better, just a little bit better than LeBron James.
Yeah, I definitely agree because LeBron has been the second best player of all time. And he's been great to watch. And the last 10 times he's been in the playoffs, he's made the finals. He's been a tremendous player. We're definitely not knocking that from him. But I definitely think Jordan is the better player of all time. Just he'd win it. He'd take whatever he has to do to win. And I also he would beat team. He would not let anybody that probably had the worst. He'd beat every team that he should beat. He would not lose to any of those guys. And he probably would have swept this team too. He probably would have swept the Heat. He probably wouldn't let them hung around in the series.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, it's close, but it's an interesting debate. But we got to get on to baseball, and we got to get on to those Yankees who, let's just say this probably, you look at the last 3 times the Yankees were eliminated from the playoffs the last 3 years. 2017, even though they didn't get to the World Series, still a very, very successful season because that team came out of nowhere. 2018, I still think that was a successful season because they won 100 games and they lost to the best team in the league that ended up winning the World Series. And then in 2019, with all the injuries, I still considered that a successful season because that team won over 100 games and they got to the ALCS too. But I think this year is the most disappointing because I think that's because of the team they lost to. I think the 2 Astros teams from 17 and 19 and the Red Sox team from 18 was definitely better than the Rays team this year. And And also, I think Aaron Boone definitely had his hand in the series, especially in game 2, like we talked about. I mean, I don't get why he didn't let Debbie Garcia do his job in game 2 and let him pitch that game. I don't get why, he brought J.A. Happ out of relief, and J.A. Happ was surprised about it. I mean, he could have gotten bailed out in the series, but he chose not to have Clint Frazier or Gary Sanchez in the lineup. So I honestly, his decision in game 2 and those decisions in game 5 are, yes, Judge didn't have a great series. Yes, he had that home run in game 5, but he didn't have a great series. Gio didn't have a great series, and Voit didn't have a great series. But I think, and Tanaka didn't pitch that well in game 3. But I think the biggest reason the Yankees lost this series is because of the decisions that Aaron Boone made. And that's why this is a tough one to swallow as a Yankee fan.
Yeah, it is. And it's a team too. And no disrespect to Tampa. They won 40 games. They had, I think they had 9 pitchers on the IL at one point. But I think combined their whole lineup that played in game 5 made $8.8 million. And just a record, Garrett Cole did his job game 5. He was great. He made the one mistake and he is making $13 million. So one guy, our starting pitcher, that made the whole Rays lineup. They don't have that one superstar, but Randy Rosarena killed them. And I'm with you with Boone. And I know he's got the option, so I know they're not firing him. But this is the 3rd straight time in the playoffs where he's gotten outmanaged, and his moves have really came back to cost.
But I think this one was glaring. This one was glaring where it was on him. This one was glaring. The other 2, I think he lost to a better team. This one was glaring on him. This one was definitely on him.
Yeah, no, I definitely, because again, it just took the wind out of their sails, because you're telling your team that we don't have enough, that we got to play the Tampa Bay Rays level. We got to beat them at their own game, and I think that really, I think it killed all momentum that they gained out of game 1, and it really changed things around. But look, I think for Boone, because his contract's up next year, he better get the World Series next year. I'm not taking anything less. If it's anything less, I don't know if I want him back. And especially if he makes moves like this next year. Because Mike Ford hasn't played a game in 3 weeks? And
they had him pinch hit for Higashioka.
Yeah, and then what are you telling Gary? Hey, you're going to come in for defense because we're going to pitch Higashioka.
And I was talking to Joe after the game. He said it perfectly. Higashioka should have been pulled from that game after Garrett Cole came out.
Yeah, I agree. He should have. Why? Especially when your whole team is going to be strikeout or home run anyways. Who cares? Who cares he strikes out 3 times? The rest of the team does it. Who cares? What's the big deal about it? That's what annoys me about all this is just it's the Yankees' fault. I blame the Yankees for what's happened to Gary Sanchez. You put, Joe said it, we were talking before. This is the 3rd catcher instructor in 4 years. He's probably have learned so many different things that he doesn't know what's right and what's wrong. And they're trying to make him into Johnny Bench when I'm fine with him just being Mike Piazza. Just a great hitter, but he's got his flaws defensively. I take that any day of the week because he can make up for the 1 or 2 pass balls that he has. He can make up for putting a home run in the seats. So I blame the Yankees. I don't really blame Gary for any of this, for his lack of production. Again, he's got to get back on track, but I blame the Yankees for him.
Yeah, I mean, you can blame the Yankees, but part of it's got to be on Gary Sanchez. He just hasn't lived up to what he's been, what he was in 2016 and 2017. I mean, he just hasn't. His average is terrible. He strikes out too much. Yes, defensively, he's shaky. I mean, yes. What have I played him? What have I had? Do I play him over Akashioka when Garrett Cole doesn't pitch? Absolutely, but he just hasn't played well the last 2-3 seasons. That's just the reality of the situation. You want to talk about changing coaches and everything. Yes, the organization hasn't done him right, but still, as a player, you got to play well, and he just hasn't played well. So I'm sorry. Everybody wants to say, "Oh, it's the Yankee organization. It's the organization." Sanchez has got to step up as well. Justin. Yeah, I mean, we might have lost Justin there, but yeah, I mean, the organization's got, as we said, he's got to play. He's got. Oh, Eden just said wrong. His numbers outside of batting average are tops among catchers. Yes, but the catching position is not a deep position in terms of offense. Okay. Yes, if they want to, people want to say, yes, his numbers outside our batting average is tops among catchers. Yes, but the catching position is not a deep offensive position. So yes, I'm not saying we should get rid of him. I still want him on the team, but he needs to step up and get back to all right, best among catchers. Yes, arm among catchers. Yes, I get that, but let's just stop with the Gary Sanchez stuff. And I bet Joe has Justin's mic muted right now. I bet he does. But yeah, I mean, it's just let's just admit he just hasn't lived up to the potential. It's just what's happened with Gary Sanchez, and he's got to be better next season. But so does Aaron Boone. And yesterday on the Michael Kay show, I mean, Hal Steinbrenner said that Boone is back, but obviously this is a year where the Yankees have to at least get to the World Series, or Aaron Boone will probably be gone. So a lot of pressure is obviously on Aaron Boone. Oh, all right. I get this. Okay, second best is. I get this. Okay, I get the Gary Sanchez defense and the Gary Sanchez love, but I'm sorry. He just hasn't. His average just isn't there. I mean, I defend him early in the year, but I just couldn't defend him by the end of the season. I mean, I think the player's I think he's one of the better catchers in baseball, but knowing the catching position in baseball, that's not saying that much. So that's just not saying that much. Justin, you back?
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, there's part of blame that, yes, definitely could be on Gary Sanchez, but I put most of the blame on the Yankees organization. Some of it, yeah, we all have all these, I would maybe say Glaber. I know he wasn't great average-wise this year, but last year he hit last 2 years, he's been right around 300 over it. And because most of his lineup is strikeout or home run. And to me, it goes back to analytics. Again, I know home runs win you ball games according to the computers, but let's try to get some base hits. So, yeah, the rest of the team I know hasn't been as bad, but a lot of it, I know Gary was the worst of it. He did it that, walk off against or put him the 4-run lead against the Mets. He's had his moments. He had a good game, I thought, in game 2 against the Indians. But again, I think if they just simplify things for him and just let him focus on hitting and not trying to be the greatest catcher of all time, I think his numbers will go back up because I think it'll clear his head and he'll focus more on hitting. I think he focused more on the defense. All
right. How many catchers have more than 10 home runs this season? Dude, it's a 60-game season, okay? Give me a break with how many catchers have more than 10 home runs, okay? Listen, okay? Again, the position is not a strong position in the game, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So, please, enough with how many catchers have hit more than 10 home runs this season, okay? Stop with that.
There wasn't many, but it's still, I know he played, I think, 49 of the games, I believe he played in. I just think if you let him simplify things, the average will go up, the homers will go up. Okay, maybe not the defense, but who cares if he's putting 35 home runs in the season next year? Who's going to care? I know the people will still be out there, oh my God, he can't play defense. We should trade him. We should release him. But who cares? Who cares if he hits 35 home runs? As long as the average goes up, I do agree. The average, he cannot sit around the 200. He's got to get it up there to 240, 250 at least. But as long as he's putting balls in the stands, I won't care. And again, we've seen him do it. So just simplify things for Gary, and I think he'll be fine. Stop trying to make him into the greatest catcher of all time. Just stop.
I know, but he needs to step up. I don't want him off the team, but he needs to step up. But we've done enough with Gary Sanchez. We got to get to some other issues, and one of the other issues is Aroldis Chapman. I wouldn't say it's an issue, but me and Joe were talking after the game about him and Britton switching because the last couple of years he's given up some big home runs. Obviously, the home run to Altuve, the home run obviously to Brusseau, and then obviously you had the game-winning double he gave up 2 years ago against the Astros too. So he has given up some big hits in the postseason. I'm not saying by any means Aroldis Chapman is done, but some of these big hits he's given up in the postseason are a little concerning.
Yeah, they are. And I thought that Braswell bat, that was a great at-bat by him. And I know he didn't have any confidence really in the slider because of what happened last year with Altuve, but you could see that last foul ball they hit, he was all over the fastball. And when he threw it, you knew, he was on top of it. I felt like he should have at least tried the slider because he was all over it. And Michael Kay is making this suggestion, which I actually kind of like because, yeah, I think, it would be a good idea to move Britton to the closer but then you pay $16 million for a setup man. Why don't? Because remember, he came up as a starting pitcher. If you're looking for a starting pitcher next year, why don't you see if you can get some length out of him again and see what he can do as a starter? I don't think because $16 million a year, you don't really want him to be a setup man. Because his stuff's not unique anymore. Everybody coming up throwing 100 miles per hour now. It's not unique like it first was. But I kind of like that idea. Try him as a starter and just see how it works out. I think that could be a good idea. Maybe kind of could even because I know he wanted to do that. He may still be up for that. I know that was always something he wanted to do. Would be a starter, but I kind of like that idea.
I don't love the starter idea. I keep him in the bullpen. I'm not into making relievers, especially good relievers starting pitchers. I keep him in the bullpen. It's just him and Britton switching would maybe help them because Britton, as me and Joe were talking about after the game on Friday, Britton doesn't give up the home runs that Gary Sanchez gives. I mean, I'm sorry about Gary Sanchez, but Aroldis Chapman gives up. So I would still, maybe. Definitely keep Chapman in the bullpen. Have him, and you see, and Joe put up the stat 8 for 8 in saves. So, and he doesn't blow saves either. So I wouldn't mind having Britton the closer, Chapman setup, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that either. It just I just don't know if you want to pay $16 million a year to a setup man. It just seems a little bit too much. I know Britton, I think, is in 13. It's a little bit less, but I don't know. I kind of want to tip the hand there because you may be looking for a fifth starter. I kind of saw it too. Cashman was talking to the media today, and it sounds like Severino is probably not going to be back until June or July. I could even be fine with that, seeing that situational.
Yeah, I agree there. I don't mind that either.
Depending on who comes up in the lineup, depending on where they are, the opponent is in the order. But you could be looking for a fifth. I don't know. I would I'm hoping maybe that's an open idea with Boone and the rest of the staff, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. So lastly, we'll talk about some of the free agents. DJ LeMahieu, obviously a must sign. Tanaka, a lot of people don't think he'll be back. I think that's kind of a question mark. Paxton and Happ, I think they're going to let walk. Here's another thing, Joe. Yeah, Higgy and Sanchez might platoon behind the plate. I wouldn't mind seeing that too, because Sanchez could focus on hitting and not have to focus on catching. So that could help as well if Sanchez could be a DH and have Higgy catch. So I wouldn't mind that either. But we'll get to the free agents. DJ LeMahieu obviously must sign. Tanaka, I'm not sure of yet, but there's a pretty good chance he won't come back. Paxton, they'll probably let walk. Happ probably let walk, and then Gardner. Do not pick up his option with the way Clint Frazier's been playing. Let Clint Frazier play now. Brett Gardner, I appreciate everything he's done, but it's time to end it with Brett Gardner.
Yeah, Gardy, yes, thank you for everything. But yeah, you got to get Clint Frazier's turn. He deserves it, and you cannot keep wasting him on the bench and playing him once or twice a week. Happ and Paxton, yeah, I think they're definitely both gone. Tanaka, I felt a little bit more confident. Joe was saying that Japan, you go get a lot of money. So I felt like maybe the Yankees could bring him back on a 1-year deal if they could be on the cheap side. But yeah, LeMahieu, you definitely have to pay. It worries me that they may, because you're already paying Cole till what? He's gonna be 38. You're paying Stanton until he's 38. It's like, do they want to really pay another guy? LeMahieu till he's 36, $25 million a year. I'd be okay. I'd be fine with it, just because again, you lose so much because he's really the only guy that is a really good contact hitter. But again, it's tough. I think the Yankees definitely have to re-sign him. They definitely got to do whatever it takes to re-sign him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just been so good for them the last 2 years. I can't see them resigning them. Not resigning him. And then you look at the other guys. We'll see what happens. We'll see what ends up happening there. But more than likely, Tanaka, Paxton, and Happ will walk. And then I hope Gardner doesn't get his option picked up. But we got to get to the rest of the playoffs. We got to get to the ALCS, and the Rays are on the brink of getting to the World Series. And I think the big story in this series has been this: the Astros cannot hit at all with runners in scoring position, and the two huge errors from Jose Altuve in Game 1. He had the air. I mean, him and Gurriel had that air. I mean, when he underthrew him, and then Gurriel couldn't scoop the ball up. Then Margot, next batter, hits a home run, And then last night, Altuve makes a bad throw to Correa at second, and then the Rays go on to score 5 runs in that inning. So the Rays have had timely hitting and capitalized on Houston's errors. The Rays have gotten good pitching, and I think that has been the difference in the series.
Yeah, and the thing is too, like the Rays defense, I think too. It just seems every night they're making a huge play.
Yeah, you saw Morgo in the game in game 3 making that play, and then last night Kiermaier made a nice play too.
Yeah, their defense was spot on, and Bregman hit like the 5 lineouts or whatever over 95 miles per hour. Him and Springer are 2 for 26 this series, and Springer has been great in the postseason, struggling this one or this year so far. But I've been impressed with the Rays. They're not gonna win a ton of slugfest. This is how they want to win games. And
the Rays have the best bullpen in baseball, and they got a really good rotation. That's why they're here.
They do, and they also can put they had 12 different guys close this year. They don't care what role. They can put anybody in any type of role, and they're fine with it, and they're good with it, and it works out for them. Everything just has fallen into place for this bullpen, and you get behind, and you're in trouble. You're not going to be able to score many runs on this bullpen. And tonight I know Houston's got a Greinke on the mound. Who it's an interesting call too, because I know he's not been great, and
you got to have someone to be the stopper though.
Yeah,
I mean, you're down 0-3. What do you got to lose?
Yeah, you're right. And they shouldn't. Nobody really thought the Astros were going to get back here this year. But you're gonna have to face Tyler Glasnow, who
was pretty good in Game 5, and I was shocked that he got taken out of Game 5 too, as fast as he did. I actually thought that was going to help the Yankees, but it ended up not. But he was really good in Game 5 against the Yankees.
Yeah, he was, and on 2 days rest too. It was really surprising. I figured his fastball would be a little bit slower, but he was still getting up there in the high 90s and 100s. I was hoping they were going to put Snell in after because the Yankees love hitting him, but
you see, Joe, don't question Kevin Cash. I get it. Yes, Kevin Cash, one of the best managers in baseball. I won't question him. His move ended up working. But after the Judge home run, I just had a little bit of a question with it, but it ended up working. Joe's right about that.
It did. And it just every move he makes has been great. Has worked out for his team. And Randy Rosarenas came out of nowhere. Another Cardinal, too. Him and Luke Voit have slipped through the cracks in that organization. And he destroyed the Yankees. But yeah, it's this Rays team, they got a real shot to win this thing. Going into it, I thought they'd be able to probably take care of them in 6 or 7 just because of the depth. They had more depth than the Astros, but they got a real shot to sweep them tonight, which I'm shocked by.
Oh, absolutely. I always thought they were. I even thought, when they were beating the Yankees during the regular season, that they had a very good chance to win the World Series, and they got a great chance to win it. They got a great chance to, win this series, and obviously they're going to win this series, and they have a great chance to beat, probably the Braves in the World Series. So I think both those. I think the Rays have a great chance of doing that. And then we'll get to the NLCS, and the Braves lead the Dodgers 2-0, led by Max Fried, who had a great start in Game 1. Freddie Freeman's been playing great. Ozzie Albies has been hitting the ball. Acuna had the big double in game 1. Austin Riley had the big home run in the 9th inning. And then yesterday the Braves continued to hit. They scored 8 runs. Obviously, the big story is Clayton Kershaw. I mean, the Dodgers tried coming back. Corey Seager had a big game. Max Muncy had a pretty good, I think, had a home run too. And then Cody Bellinger had a good game too. So the Dodgers tried to get some momentum going into game 3. But the big story is Clayton Kershaw. And is Clayton Kershaw going to be able to pitch in the series? He's not going to be able to pitch tonight. And is he going to be able to pitch in the series? And if he's not, there's no way the Dodgers win this series.
No, they're not. I know right now the Dodgers have him going tomorrow. They said he should be able to pitch tomorrow. We'll see. They showed yesterday he was kind of just throwing in the bullpen or just kind of loosen up. But yeah, and the thing was too, Tony Gonsolin on Sunday, I think it was an inter-squad scrimmage or he was pitching in a sim game or something like that, and he threw 4 innings. So it kind of showed that.
As you see Joe's comment, counting on Clayton is a bad idea, and I have to admit, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball for a while. But yeah, with injuries, he's right. He's definitely right on there.
Yeah, it's been the back mostly too. It's just been unfortunate. It's just and he's one of the best. And they really needed a big start from him last night to kind of even this thing back up. And it's, unfortunate because, again, I know his postseason numbers haven't been great throughout his career. And you kind of hope because he is one of the best, you do want him to get a World Series ring. You do want him to pitch well in the postseason. So they definitely may need him tomorrow to either keep the series alive or, again, try to make it 2-2. So yeah, it'd be huge tomorrow because how much more can you kind of rely on this bull? Because they don't trust Jansen right now either. They don't. He's kind of a guy right now that they don't really have a role for him. So you kind of lose one guy there in the bullpen. But yeah, it's unfortunate. It's tough to count on Kershaw lately with his back.
Yeah, I mean, right now the Braves clearly have the better bullpen, and they got the ace with Max Fried. He'll probably pitch again in Game 5. So I think right now the Braves are in great shape. Dodgers tonight is a must win. Their bats got to get going, especially Justin Turner and Mookie Betts. Those guys got to get going, especially Betts. Betts is getting paid all this money. You got to perform in the postseason. This is why the Dodgers traded for you. This is why the Dodgers signed you. You got to perform in this series.
Yeah. 2 hits so far in the 2 games. And we saw it in 18, obviously, being Yankee fans. He killed us, and that's killed us. And he was great that whole postseason. And then with the Braves, Fried, and then Ian Anderson, his 3 first career playoff starts, hasn't allowed a run in 22 innings. I know you faced the Marlins, and the Reds had a pretty good lineup, but, they're home run or nothing. But to shut down that Dodgers lineup, pretty
impressive. And we just got another comment. Atlanta, Tampa Bay MLB must be. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that could not have been a worse World Series when you had the option of the Yankees and the Dodgers. You even had the option of the Astros and the Dodgers. Now you got 2 really small markets with the Rays and the Braves. The only positive you get out of it though is maybe you can see Ronald Acuna play, but MLB. Rob Manfred instituted this season, the 60-game season, and this is the World Series he's getting. I'm telling you. Ratings are not going to be high for that World Series, that's for sure.
No, I saw Monday that the ALCS 1.8 million viewers.
Wow.
And they barely beat out WWE. I think the NLCS Monday had about 3, I believe. 2 or 3. It was right around there. So they didn't do much better even with the Dodgers. So I think
it's a regional sport. Baseball is just a regional sport. It's just for a lot of people, if your team's not in it, unfortunately at this point, people just don't care. It's sad. They just don't care if your team's not in it.
Yeah. It's tough for me watching the ALCS, not knowing the Yankees are in it. It's been fun watching the NLCS, but for me, it's tough to watch the ALCS because,
And the Yankees will be beating the Astros too.
Yeah, that too. It's a tough pill to swallow, and it's been tough to watch this series, but it is definitely a regional sport, and it's sad that this was America's pastime, and it's really just gone by the wayside really lately. Again, it's the pace of play and all that. We could discuss all that another day.
Discuss that for weeks and days. We could discuss that maybe if the World Series rating, when the World Series ratings are bad, we can discuss that. But yeah, it's just not. They're just not getting. They're not reaching the game out to a diverse audience. They're not reaching the game out to a younger audience, and that's why the ratings are what they are.
Yeah, and it's tough too to start on the East Coast at 8:30 game for the ALCS. It's tough to stay up for when you're on the East Coast. I think that's kind of got part of it, but yeah, it's tough. They need to figure it out, but yeah, it's bad for the sport right now.
Yeah, it's a tough time for the sport, and we'll see what ends up happening to the rest of the LCS and the World Series. But to wrap up our baseball talk, we gotta talk about a legend who unfortunately passed away, and that's Joe Morgan. Died at the age of 77. And one of my childhood, turning on Sunday Night Baseball was him and John Miller. I always remember watching those Yankee Red Sox games with those 2 guys. But what Morgan's most remembered for was being a Cincinnati Red, being a 10-time All-Star, 2-time MVP, 1975, 1976. And both those years were the Reds where they won the World Series. They beat the Red Sox in 75, beat the Yankees in 76. One of the best second basemen of all time. Rest in peace, Joe Morgan. We will be missed.
Yeah, definitely. Big part of that big red machine, as you talked about in the 70s. And I guess he was a huge admirer of Jackie Robinson, and he was actually also kind of back off of that. He was the first MLB broadcaster. He was the first African American to be a MLB announcer. So, because he was just a phenomenal player, and baseball. This is already the 7th Hall of Famer we've lost this year. It's been a tough tough time. I kind of remember him because his final year was 2010, so I kind of remember him 09, 2010, not great, but everything I heard, he was a great announcer. Obviously, I saw a lot this year, kind of during quarantine, watching like the big red machine. Him and Pete Rose.
Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, yeah.
Yeah, and in his career too, as 850 more walks and strikeouts, which you will never see something like that ever again. I think that's so impressive.
Yeah, I actually met him once. I was in Cleveland, 8 years old, for Indians Orioles game. My dad was working at ESPN at the time. Went up to the booth, met John and Joe. So I actually met him once too.
Really, that's really cool. That's special. Meet a Hall of Famer. It's really special being able to meet a guy like that. Man, it's another sad day for Major League Baseball, losing another legend this year.
Absolutely. Bob Gibson, Whitey Ford, and now Joe Morgan. It's very, very sad. Very sad time. Sad year 2020 to lose some of these legends of the game. Just ambassadors and legends of the game.
Yep, it is. Yeah, just 2020 summed up.
Exactly. So we gotta move on to college football, and before we get into the games, we got to get to the Florida Gators. They've stopped football activities due to the coronavirus outbreak. They were going to play play LSU this week. That game is definitely in question. And it's funny because Dan Mullen, after the Texas A&M game, he wanted a full stadium of fans, and then 5 of his players get the virus, and now he's backtracking on those comments. Good thing he is backtracking on those comments. But yeah, this is a situation, a fluid situation, and I don't see them playing LSU this week.
Yep, and you are correct. Minutes ago, they just canceled the game. They're up to 19 players that have tested positive for COVID. So yeah, Dan Mullen's comments is kind of what's wrong right now with everybody trying to make things go back to normal before they should, because the minimum is you have to have at least 53 scholarship players. They're getting close to that threshold, but again, already 19 guys. It's Wednesday. Who knows how many more could have it or already have it. So it's the right call from the SEC, and SEC is starting to running some problems.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's gonna be an issue because down south the rules have definitely been loosened up. It's not like how it is up here where the rules have been tight and people haven't been getting the virus. It's been spreading down south. We saw with the Titans, their whole team got a ton of guys, and that team got it. Florida's getting it. I think they even canceled a game in the SEC. Yeah. Was it Vanderbilt, Missouri? They postponed that game too. So a lot of people, the virus is still spreading down there. So it's definitely going to be a challenge as the season goes on. But we got to get to the games this week, and we're going to quickly go through all of them outside of the big one. We're going to start with Pitt and Miami. And I think in this game, De'Aaron King rebounds, and the Canes win this one by 2 scores.
Yeah, I got Miami win this one close 20-20. Pittsburgh just hasn't been able to close out games the last few weeks. Their defense still is one of the tops in the country. They're only allowing 232 yards a game. They already have 19 sacks. They're going to be able to get some pressure on King. I think he's still going to struggle. He'll make enough plays to get the win. But again, that last week they played well for a half. They kept it close, but Clemson was just obviously way too much for him. They're not ready for that test, but Miami should get the win at home.
Got an SEC matchup in Columbia as Auburn faces South Carolina. And I think this is a really close competitive game. South Carolina's 1-2, but they lost to 2 good teams, Florida and Tennessee. But I think in a close one, I'm taking Bo Nix and the Tigers over the Gamecocks.
I get South Carolina pulling the upset. I do not like the way Auburn's been playing the last few weeks. They should have lost to Arkansas last week. Obviously you saw Georgia just manhandled them and made them look like a group of 5 or FCS school up front. That was awful. I've seen, and this is kind of a big game. I think Will Muschamp's on kind of the hot seat here. Obviously everybody talks Gus Malzahn's on the hot seat. I don't really believe that one as much, but for South Carolina, they've played tough. I think Auburn's offense hasn't been great. Auburn, for their offense to be good, they have to establish the running game. If South Carolina can slow that down, they'll be able to win this game. They really, they played well against Tennessee, but a couple of turnovers costed them. They get off the field on 3rd down. They've been really good at that so far. I think they're only allowing opponents 20% of the time. Shi Smith is their big target, 22 catches already on the year, second on team only has 9. So that's their big play guy. And again, if this could Muschamp could get this win. This would be huge for him to hopefully, keep his job.
Got another SEC matchup in Starksville as Texas A&M with Kellen Mond faces Mississippi State with KJ Costello, and who knows this game's going to be played because Texas A&M played Florida last week, and you don't know if any of their players came down with the virus, so we don't even know if the game's going to be played. But I think at the end of the day, Kellen Mond has been playing better than KJ Costello, and I got A&M winning by at least 2 scores.
Yeah, I think Texas A&M is going to be able to get this one 30-20. Hopefully they're able to play this one. Hopefully, everybody on Texas A&M's okay. KJ Costello may be benched this week. Mike Leach has not announced a starter yet. He said he's going to be in practice week, but this is vintage Mike Leach though. They get the big win over LSU, which doesn't look that big anymore, and then now 2 kind of bad performances. That's kind of what you get out of Mike Leach. That's what happened to Washington State, what happened at Texas Tech, and the way to beat the air raid is to drop 8 back in zone coverage. And if you have 3 guys that could at least get some pressure, it doesn't have to sack them every time, but force the ball out of the quarterback's hands, you're going to be able to slow that offense down. And I think Texas A&M's going to be able to do that. KJ Costello's QBR last week was a 22. They were 0 for 3 in the red zone. They're 2 quarterbacks through 6 interceptions. Texas A&M will be able to take care of business. And what a win last week for Jimbo Fisher. That, quieted everybody that kind of had him, on the hot, questioning his job and whether he could turn Texas A&M around.
Got an ACC matchup in Tallahassee as the Tar Heels travel down to Tallahassee to face the Seminoles. And I think Florida State played a little bit better last week. The quarterback change helped, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think Sam Howell played well for North Carolina, and I do have the Tar Heels winning it by 2 scores.
Yeah, I got Tar Heels winning this one big, 45-21. And I was watching a little bit that Northern game last week, but I even watched some of the Jacksonville State game. And their guys, Florida State, they lack speed, which is crazy. They lack speed on both sides of the ball. There's guys in Jacksonville State that had as much speed or even faster than a couple of the Florida State guys, which kind of shows you how bad it's gotten down there. And I think North Carolina to be able to expose that. Jordan Travis ran the ball 19 times last week. Their line's not great. He's kind of running all over the place. They're going to get him killed. They got torched 353 yards on the ground. North Carolina's got a great running back duo. I think they'll be able to take care of business. I think they win this one 45-21.
We got the big game this week in Tallahassee as number 3 Georgia faces number 2 Alabama. I'm really excited for this one. I think this is going to be a great game. Here's the thing about Georgia. They do a great job stopping the run. They're doing out. They're probably better than anybody in the league. And I think they're going to be able to contain Najee Harris in this game. I think the issue, though, is I think Mac Jones is going to be able to throw the ball to some of those receivers and make some plays with Jalen Waddle and with Devontae Smith. I think they're going to make some plays in this game. I think this is the game, though, that Stetson Bennett cannot manage the way he did in the Tennessee game and the way he did in the Auburn game. He can't manage this game. He's got to go out and win the game. And I think that's going to be the difference in this game. And that's why I got Alabama beating Georgia again, 24-17.
I got Bama 35-31.
Wow.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some points. I think Georgia will be able to score some points. I don't know if you saw Alabama's defense last week.
They were hard. I was texting you during the game. They were terrible last week. That shocks me with all the talent on that defense, with Moses, with Surtain, with all the talent they have in that defense. I'd argue. I look at the draft prospects. They got more talent than Georgia has, but Georgia's defenses look much better.
They have, and I think part of the reason I don't know. I just think I don't know if it's just been the lack of kind of the offseason, all the wackiness, and kind of all the new pieces that Bama puts in year out, but some of it was kind of mental. There was guys and play action pass in the secondary. They're looking in the backfield, and Ole Miss was taking off. If Georgia can get the play action going, which they love to do that, they're going to need Bennett to do that. They're going to have some success through the air. You
like these receivers? You like George Pickens against this Alabama secondary?
If Alabama plays the way they did last week, I do. I really do, because if the speed that he's got, I think he could make some big plays. If Bennett can get on the ball, and he could have some open open receivers at times. There's a lot of mixed tackles as well from the Bama D. I've never been so shocked to watch a Nick Saban defense before, and just like they just look way out of whack. They don't like the tempo either. It's usually when teams get tempo, they get something going. That's when they're, when you get, I don't think, because at times I don't think he can kind of set up some blitzes or try to get pressure on them. I think Georgia will be able to put some points on them. I think Bama's going to be able to. Georgia, this is the best offense now. Bama against the best defense in the country so far in Georgia. I think, Mac Jones, this is going to be the toughest test, obviously, for Georgia.
But the thing is, Mac Jones, this is definitely his toughest test, too, against this defense. Yeah. Mac Jones has not been considered – he's not Tua out here, okay? This is going to be the toughest test, too, against this defense. I know football is an offensive sport, but I do think when the quarterback's not great against a defense like this, it definitely can make a difference.
It definitely can. But I kind of, and it is going to be tough test. I've liked what I've seen from Mac Jones for the most part so far. I think he's played really, really well. But, yeah, this is going to be a tough test. This is going to be a huge, kind of what do we get, from, Mac Jones. This is going to be a huge kind of mark on him to see where he's at right now. And, if he can, because everybody's kind of doubting this guy. Maybe, probably not the guy. He's not that great. But we've seen it at times. I felt, I know they lost last year to Auburn, but they put up, I think, like 45 points on them. Or, they can put up some points. And with the weapons they have, too, all he has to do is just throw it in the vicinity of Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. That's all he's got to do. Just throw it in the vicinity as long as there's no Georgia guys around, Just don't make the plays for you. You just got to give him the ball. And I think he'll be able to do that enough. And the thing is, too, every time Kirby Smart plays Nick Saban, he tries to outdo something. He tries to do something crazy, and it just leads to a disaster. And again, I could see him trying to do the same thing, trying to fake a punt on like 4th and 2. It just changes the whole game. I could definitely see that happening from him. And the last thing I'll say about is Georgia has only allowed 2 trips to the red zone so far this year, and none of them have been touchdowns. So Alabama can make the big plays. That's what you have to do against Georgia's D. You cannot, you can maybe have 1 or 2 drives you can drive down the field on these guys, but that's going to be it. You got to beat them with big plays. And I think Alabama has the weapons to do that. And also with Najee Harris, this is a different back too. This guy will run you over. He will make 2 or 3 guys there's going to be 2 or 3 guys that have to tackle this guy, wrap him up, bring him down. And they use him too in the passing game. He's fun to watch, and I think Alabama's got a little bit too much weapons for the Georgia Bulldogs, especially being a Tuscaloosa on a Saturday night.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see what happens there and see who wins that game. But we got to wrap up the show talking about Dustin Johnson, the best golfer of 2020. Unfortunately, came down with COVID-19, and he's out of the CJ Cup in Las Vegas. And yeah, and for him, I just hope he's doing well, and I hope he recovers from this. I hope he recovers from this, that he could be in the Masters. That's what I hope for him, and I just hope he's doing well, because it'd be a shame to see the best golfer of 2020 not be in the Masters.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely hope that he gets healthy from this, battles this, and gets back on the courts as soon as possible. Yeah, because obviously he's been playing so well this year, top golfer this year. Definitely want to see him at the Masters, which would make the event so much more fun to watch.
Absolutely. So that's going to wrap it up this week on Sports Talk with R&J. For Justin D'Onofrio, I'm Steve Risser. We'll be back next week talking Week 8 of the college football season and Week 7 of the NFL season and the World Series. Have a great weekend, everybody.